Thank you so much, Liz, and welcome everyone. It's pretty exciting that we have people attending from all over the Midwest and the Western states. So thank you for getting up early in the morning. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. There we go. So my name is Deb Dunkhase, and I am in District 6000, Iowa City AM Rotary. Today's session is going to be Change a Life, Volunteer. So we're going to explore the benefits of service above self and how volunteering is the key to health and happiness. I have been involved in volunteering a long time myself. I'm going to tell you a little bit about why someone asked me to do this today. But let me tell you also, there's a gentleman, Ron Heidemann, who's going to monitor our chat box. So if you have questions, you can either stop me, yell them out loud, or the best way would be to put it in the chat box so Ron can read them and share them with the group. So one moment can change a day, one day can change a life, and one life can change the world. I absolutely, positively, 100% believe this. And a lot of this happens through volunteering. That's how you can make it happen in your life. Some of my experiences are, especially through Rotary, are that I have been the team leader for a Rotary District 6000 international project called Iowa Most. Iowa Most is a Miles to Smiles team, and we have for the last 16 years gone to Guatemala, Huehuetenango, in the Western Highlands of Guatemala to provide a cleft lip, cleft palate, and cataract mission to the people of Guatemala. We take a team of about 40 to 45 volunteers every year, and so it's my responsibility to coordinate them and oversee them. I've also, just like all of you, been a leader in my club, in the Iowa City AM Club. I was on the board for several years and served as president. And until 2 years ago, I was the director of the Iowa Children's Museum in Coralville, Iowa. Great place for kids, and we generally worked with about 200, 250 volunteers a year. My most recent experience with volunteering is after I retired, I started another nonprofit called Open Heartland. And Open Heartland is a community center that works with Hispanic immigrants in our community in Southern Iowa. This happens to be a learning center where kids are doing online learning. Once COVID hit, our responsibilities changed a lot. This organization is totally volunteer driven, and we probably work with about 100 plus volunteers every year. So volunteering is the ultimate exercise in democracy. You vote in elections once a year, but when you volunteer, you vote every day about the kind of community you want to live in. And I want to start today's session by just thanking each and every one of you. I know each of you, because you are Rotarians, you have already probably spent a lot of time volunteering, working with volunteers, and on behalf of this little munchkin and just thousands of people that you've impacted, thank you for all of that. We know that there's a lot of scientific evidence that shows that volunteering positively affects your body. Studies show that when people volunteer, they trigger something called the mesolimbic system, and that's a portion of the brain responsible for feelings of reward. The brain releases these feel-good chemicals, spurring you to perform more kind acts. So psychologists call it a helper's high. That's just one of the benefits of volunteering. When you volunteer, you get this attitude that you are ready to take on the world. People who volunteer feel more rewarded, more fulfilled, and volunteers report that helping others enriches their own sense of purpose. You get a chance to pay it forward. Kindness is contagious. Simply seeing someone help another person gives us a really good feeling. Somehow, and I have no idea why this happens, but somehow when you volunteer, you have a sense that you have more time. Volunteering won't give you any more time in your 24-hour day, but somehow it makes those hours seem more fulfilling. In fact, the research shows the people who volunteer actually say they feel like they have more time in every day. And lastly, and to me, this is maybe one of the most important reasons, is that volunteering helps give you a feeling of gratitude. Helping others is a really powerful way to gain perspective on your own situation, and that can make you more appreciative of what you have. So Rotary, we know service above self has long been recognized by Rotary as a fundamental feature of Rotary membership. Liz is going to help us take a poll here right now. And Liz is going to open the poll. The question is, how important was Rotary's focus on service to your decision to become a Rotarian? So can you all please vote? Whoa, you're voting already. Awesome. All right. So it looks like either extremely important or very important. So we've got 34%, 50%, 14, and 2. Thank you for doing that. So can we close? We're going to close that up. And there we go. The overwhelming majority of Rotarians, and this is done by a survey conducted by RI, identify Rotary's emphasis on service as one of Rotary's main attractions to its members. So RI, when they did this survey, 27.6% said extremely important. You all said 34%, so it's even more important to us. 45.8, very important. We said 50, similar. Moderately, 20.7, we said 14, and slightly, only 2%. So for you all, it's about the same as RI, but maybe it's even a little more important to the people attending this session today. These stats that I just shared with you come from a special report that RI enlisted the Johns Hopkins Center for Civil Society to conduct. And I thought you might be interested in hearing some of these stats. Rotary members gave 47 million volunteer hours in 2019. This is equal to mobilizing 27,000 full-time paid workers, saving communities across the world $850 million in service cost, huge number. And the most popular areas Rotary volunteers gave time in were education and health, not too surprising. And these numbers don't even include all of the friends and relatives that Rotarians bring with us when we volunteer, nor do they include the about 700,000 volunteer hours of Rotaract and Interact students. So that is a lot of volunteer service. Rotary's full-time equivalent volunteer workforce is nearly 50 times larger than its 563 paid staff. And though volunteerism, Rotary International is mobilizing a workforce for social progress every year that's equivalent, as I said, to 27,000 FTEs. Together, we do so much. As Rotarians, we have a remarkable record of leveraging the unique renewable resource for social problem solving that volunteering represents. Rotary clubs carry out all kinds of community improvement projects that truly make this world a better place for everyone. I wanted to show you again, the slide I showed you before showed you the most popular areas of Rotary volunteering. I wanted to break it down a little bit more because I thought you might relate to this within your own clubs. So in order of importance, there's social assistance, healthcare, education, culture and the arts, community economic development, environment, international cooperation, emergency assistance, and advocacy. So these are the areas that RI has found that our volunteers give of their time to. Together, Rotarians are changing lives and we are changing the world. And the reason I want to bring this up is that the volunteer work that we do accomplishes so much, both locally and globally. We are really changing the world. Rotary has actually joined together with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And I had never even heard of the SDGs until about 3 years ago. But now I'm one of the biggest advocates of the Sustainable Development Goals. How this came about is during a historic summit in 2015, the United Nations adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It's an agenda for people, for the planet, for prosperity, and for peace and partnerships. The Sustainable Development Goals are really all about transforming our world by eradicating poverty, ensuring its transition to sustainable development. World leaders agreed to these 17 SDGs, and the goals are an expansive framework for improving the quality of life on this planet within a generation. And you can see that they're in all areas: no poverty, zero hunger, good health, well-being, education, gender equality. Everything you think will make the world a better place, they're included in these goals. We also, as Rotarian and Rotarian volunteers, we help local entrepreneurs and community leaders, particularly women in impoverished communities. A central pillar of both the Sustainable Development Goals and Rotary's own humanitarian objectives is recognition of the critical importance of developing mutually beneficial partnerships between governments, civil society organizations like Rotary, and the business community. And the best example of that partnership, and one that has made a tremendously lasting impact on communities around the world, has been Rotary's effort to eradicate polio. So Rotary's work with polio aligns with the SDG number 3, good health and well-being. In a report published recently, it cited that the spread of polio internationally remains a global public concern. Experts meeting in Geneva concluded there were 28 cases in 2018 compared to 113 at mid-December of 2020, with no significant success yet in reversing this trend. So there's concern over the expansion of polio right now, but the point I want to make is that this aligns so well with the work the United Nations is doing with the SDGs, and that makes more it kind of puts a spotlight more on Rotarians and what they're doing. And it's important for us, I think, to align the work that we do with global efforts. At the 2019 RI convention in Germany, Cyril Norrington, and I may not be pronouncing his right, he's the RI representative to UNESCO, said, "I believe that the more closely we align our work with the work of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the better we will be able to leverage that work and the more we will be able to achieve." And if you're interested in finding out more about the SDGs, all you have to do is Google United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and you'll find a wealth of information. So beyond all the personal benefits of health and happiness that come from volunteering, the global impact of Rotary volunteers is incredibly compelling. For a world challenged to meet a demanding set of sustainable development goals in the face of withering environmental catastrophes and limited governmental and philanthropic resources, the lesson is really clear in my mind. Volunteer service is not only a feel-good calling, it might provide one of the more powerful and one of the more fulfilling avenues through which to reach the ambitious UN 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. So, with you all as future Rotary Club presidents, what does all this mean to you? Well, in the words of our fearless leader, Paul Harris, may Rotarians continue to be ambassadors of goodwill to high and low, rich and poor, to all races, to the devotees of all religious faiths, and to members of all political parties, purveyors of tolerance, forbearance, kindness, justice, kindliness, neighborliness, and friendliness to the inhabitants of this snug little world, the best little world of which we know. You are all about to become the leaders of the pack if you've not served in that position before. You will set the tone and the direction of how your club models and supports service above self. So my question to you today is, are you ready? What type of volunteer opportunities does your club offer its members? We're going to do a little bit of breakout room now that Liz is going to help us with. And we're going to spend 10 minutes in breakout rooms, about 5 people in each breakout room or so. The first 5 minutes, I'd like to ask you to create a written list of your club's volunteer opportunities. It's important for you to know this because you're going to have to post this in My Rotary during your year as presidency. And then the last 5 minutes, I want you to share with each other. What are the volunteer opportunities that your club offers? So any questions before we do that? All right. I hope you all had some great conversation and learned from each other about what volunteer opportunities you're currently doing. Maybe you got some new ideas. We'll wait till we think everybody's back.
They are.
They are. Okay, great. I am going to ask our trusty assistant here, Ron Heidemann, to share just a few, Ron. If everybody can post your activities in the chat box. just give us a brief list. And thanks, Dwight, you've already done that. Can everybody else start writing some of your individual activities in the chat box? What I'm going to
Dwight
do.
from Rochester reports community food response, trees planting, dictionary project, Strive, and reading to kids.
Mhm.
Mark from Wilmar, Minnesota, beds for kids. Melissa from Wilmar, our club does Rotary Readers, food shelf organizing, packing events. Alan, Scary Park for kids on Halloween. Michael from Edina, Thanksgiving basket delivery. Matt, HACAP Food Bank, Van Buren School Service Project, Salvation Army bell ringing. Michael, little libraries, food pantries, food drives at parades. The food goes to the helping the food pantry. Tim, Rotary Lights at Central Park. Ann, upkeep and maintenance of Veterans Boulevard of Valor. Katie, annual senior meal, adopt a family, Toys for Tots. Amanda, Kids and Cops shopping event.
That's probably good for now, Ron. Thank you so much for sharing some of those. If you would all keep posting, I would appreciate it, because at the end of this session, I'm going to actually compile some information about all the volunteer activities that you all do. So let me go back to sharing my screen. Okay, that's always good when it works. And I wanted to share with you RI's volunteer goals. So Rotary International has goals for us in how we work with our volunteers. And those goals are to encourage and facilitate participation in all types of volunteer activities. And it sounds like you all are already doing that. Increase awareness of volunteer opportunities. Help clubs and districts realize the benefits of using volunteers in their service projects. Improve quality of life worldwide through humanitarian service, and cultivate international understanding and goodwill. So those are our goals. As you all know, we have 5 avenues of service. So I just want to refresh your memory on those. They have to do with club service, focusing on making clubs strong, vocational service, calling on every Rotarian to work with integrity and contribute their expertise to the problems and needs of society, community service, encouraging every Rotarian to find ways to improve the quality of life for people in their communities and to serve the public interest. Youth service, recognizing the importance of empowering youth and young professionals through leadership development programs. And lastly, international service exemplifies our global reach in promoting peace and understanding. So for most of the projects that we all do in our Rotary clubs, those are generally connected to community service. Community service encourages us to offer service to our local communities. Every Rotary club and every Rotarian assumes a responsibility to find ways to improve the quality of life for those in their communities and to serve the public interest. So what does community service mean to specific Rotary clubs? We are trying to encourage and foster the ideal of service to the personal, business, and community life of every Rotarian. And we do that not only because Rotary is so focused on service above self, but we know how much it benefits individuals to be devoted to service. Offering opportunities to engage every Rotarian to exemplify service above self, and giving members a chance to respond to the needs of the local community. One example is Operation Warm. A lot of Rotary clubs provide winter clothing to kids in their community, and projects like this, like reading to the kids. I heard somebody talk about Project Strive. There are so many projects that we all do that help our community. These projects are relevant to the community. They serve as a learning experience for Rotarians. They identify a Rotary club's role in its community, and they determine how Rotarians can help with resources. In our community in Iowa City, and I know we have a couple other Rotarians on the presentation this morning from the community, We have 4 Rotary clubs in our town, in our community, and all 4 Rotary clubs help provide kids with winter coats. And I don't think there's a Rotarian among us in all of our clubs who every year is not stunned by the need in our community. So it really does, not only does it help the kiddos, but it really helps us be better community members as well when we involve ourselves in relevant community. So now we're going to break out again into those same breakout clubs. And I want you, this is going to be really hard, but I want you to use your own criteria for what's the best in your mind. And I want you to select your #1 volunteer project, and you got to get some consensus. This is just for fun. And then pick a speaker who's going to talk about your #1 choice just for like a minute. So go back to your breakout rooms. You're going to chat for 5 minutes. Pick out one volunteer opportunity that you think is awesome and that you want to share with the rest of the group. All right. And you can share whatever aspects of it that you want to share. Okay, Liz, can you give them 5 more minutes?
I can.
Thank you. Any questions, anybody, or you're all good on that? Okay. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a great decision and some debate about which project you wanted to share. We're going to take, this is going to move kind of quickly, but I'd like to ask every group, and you have 1 speaker for your group, to share which project you voted to share about today. So let's start with group #1. Group #1 is Alan, Bill, Pat, Paula, Stephen, John's phone. Who's going to share from room 1?
I think it was me.
Okay, good.
Well, sometimes with projects, planning is great, but they kind of morph out of nowhere. During COVID, we only have 1 local grocery store in our area, a big grocery store, and they were having a lot of difficulty because the elderly didn't want to leave their home during COVID, and they were besieged by orders for food deliveries. So we kind of mobilized our Rotary group, and we showed up on Tuesdays, and they loaded our cars, and we just started delivering food to people.
That is excellent.
And that morphed into, we also had money that we weren't spending for food for our meeting because we weren't meeting. So we used that money to take out ads in the paper and highlight 2 restaurants each week, purchase gift certificates, give them to the restaurant to hand out. They took pictures of the people getting the gift certificates, and then we put it on social media in the paper. So we're getting all sorts of exposure,
That's
spending
fantastic.
money, and supporting our restaurants.
Fantastic, Bill. What a great idea your club had. Thank you for sharing that. How about room 2? This is Andra, Bob, John, Kenny, Michael, Ryan. Who's the speaker for this group?
I guess I was elected to share about the Ecotepec project. That is a project of District 6000.
Great.
Most people in District 6000 should know about it because we've talked about it at district conferences and a number of things. Our district has partnered with the Rotary Club in Ecotepec, Mexico. It's in the state of Puebla. It's roughly 100 miles northeast of Mexico City. And every year, typically in March, we didn't go last year, we aren't going this year, but hopefully we'll get a fall trip in to do some reconnaissance for a March trip next year. We take students from high school, students from the University of Iowa, as well as a number of Rotarians, and we do work in the community for the week that we're there during spring break. Dental students from the University of Iowa will see some 3,000 to 3,500 kids and do dental exams and fluoride treatments. Pharmacy students will see those same kids and give them deworming medication and some cursory health exams. We'll have some other groups that do other things. Sometimes have some engineering students, sometimes some just a number of different things. We'll do a lot of work in neighborhood schools, painting classrooms and cleaning up the grounds, planting trees, what have you. And just things in general to better the community. And as we go back year after year, we see definite improvements in the neighborhoods where Rotary has gotten involved with a particular school. And we'll see roads get paved, homes get fixed up, maybe a little store will open up or close to that school, and just general improvement in the neighborhood. And it's really gratifying to see how people appreciate the work that we do. It's
Absolutely,
clearly
Bob.
identified as a Rotary project because we work with the local club, and we never do any project that the local club doesn't endorse.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing, Bob. And I know Hecotepec has been in existence for over 15 years.
Oh yeah, I started going in 05, I think it was. And that was like the third year of the project, of actual project trips. I
Great.
work on point of use water treatment systems in neighborhood schools so the kids have safe water to drink.
Great example to share. Thank you for sharing that. How about group 3? What was your top vote? That's Brent, Dwight, Elsa, Jason, Michael. Who's sharing from group 3?
Okay, I'll go. So it was the top vote by one was delivering Thanksgiving baskets to needy families, and we get the names from the social workers at the schools, and they're overflowing with turkeys, pies, canned goods. But the other part of than just providing meals is the fact that we involve Rotarians and their children, and we go out and hand deliver the meals. And a lot of the Rotarians' children or grandchildren have never been in a really tough home situation before, where they've never seen, a single mom with 5 kids and there's no anything. So it's twofold. It's providing a dinner, but it's also making our children and grandchildren aware of what the rest of the world is like.
Yeah, I'm sure that's incredibly impactful. Thanks for sharing that, Michael. And you've done this for several years too?
Yes, our club has done it for about 22 years.
Wow. Excellent. What a wonderful idea. Okay, room 4. This is David, Jacqueline, Melissa, and somebody from HR.
I'm humbled that my group chose me to speak about our Rockin' Robins event because it's something that we've enjoyed so much over the last couple of years. Rockin' Robins is a concert series that we've been able to do, and it has kind of a double impact, right? It has the day of impact, which coming from a community of about 19,000 people and having 7,000 people show up, it's huge. It's something that there are no barriers to entry. There's no cost to attend. There's food there, but you're welcome to bring your own. It's in a big community park. And so it's a very inclusive event, and it kind of brings the community together. Our Rotarians volunteer at it. We host everything from coordinating the food vendors to the beer tent to organizing and having that kind of hospitality experience for the band. And then we have the ability to give back to the community with the funds that we raise. And that's where you have that kind of second wave of excitement behind the events. So that just because of the impact on the community and then the impact that we have it with other organizations, it's been a huge opportunity for our club. And I think we're all very, very proud of it.
Oh, it sounds amazing. And the other piece of this that you share, Melissa, is that we're always being asked to do as much as we can with branding. And sometimes when we volunteer, we get so involved in how this is helping the community or how great it makes us feel that we sort of forget, oh yeah, we need to tell people this is Rotary doing this. So that must be a super opportunity for you to do that as well within your community.
Absolutely. And as a marketing person, that's my favorite part of it.
Wonderful. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, room 5 is Ben, Jeremiah, Katie, Phil, and Tom. Who's going to speak?
Okay, my group selected one of our annual volunteer events. Every beginning of December, we put on a hot meal for the seniors in town. Anybody can attend, but it's usually very well attended. Unfortunately, we didn't do it last year because of COVID, but it's an opportunity for people who may not have the ability to gather with people over the holidays to be able to do that and have a hot meal. We bake pies, or some of us might pay others to bake pies for us, and we all, not all of us, but those who are able go and we serve the meal and sit down with them and just enjoy some fellowship.
I'm sure that's incredibly appreciated. Where do you hold this, Katie? What kind of a facility?
It's at our Senior Citizen Center.
Okay, super.
In
Thank
town,
you.
yeah.
Great idea. Group 6, that's Dan, Jackie, Kurt, Laila, and Tim. Who's going to speak for this group?
I will. Thank you. I was trying to unmute myself. I'm Jackie.
What we talked about is that with youth being our future of both Rotary and our communities, that the group felt youth programs were super important. Our St. Cloud Rotary developed a program called Pathways for Youth in 2018 after having a program on teens experiencing homelessness, and Rotary was very much concerned about the statistics of the number of teens in the community that did not have permanent homes. So this developed into a resource center, and it was like none other that I've seen as far as when Rotary got behind this project. And it developed into a really powerful branding message, etc., and a way for kids to get help, and a way for community members, as you talked about, to be a part of a community solution. And recently in January, our club transitioned Pathways for Youth along with the the dollars that were fundraised for Pathways for Youth to Lutheran Social Service. So it launched this program and then presented Lutheran Social Service with a program in a box along with the funding. So while we're still involved in a way with some fundraising and some promotion, Lutheran Social Service is now overseeing it and is looking at making it a model in other cities as well.
Wow, congratulations. That sounds that you have made an incredible impact with this. Way to go.
Yeah, it's our club. It wasn't me. It was led by Tim Wensman and Steve Bresnahan, John Bodette, and Bill Maney.
That's always the best projects are led by a huge group of people, so you don't even remember where the idea came from. Rooms group 7. So this is Ann, Day, Floyd, Jen, and 8306. Who wants to share?
Floyd, are you still on? Floyd, you're muted if you are.
All right, sorry about that. I was asked to talk about a program that we have is Strive. And what that program reaches out to is we reach to the seniors in high school that are C students and below. And we've seen some remarkable changes in these people's lives, these young people. We give them a scholarship rewards for increasing their scholastic average. We had a student that was actually, I don't know how they got into being in senior in high school, because they had an F level grades deal when they came into their senior year. And this young lady bonded with one of our club members that was an attorney, and she wound up going to college and became an attorney herself and is returning it. You never know how long it takes for a thank you to come back from a student. We just got a thank you to our club for this program that probably the lady graduated out of the high school about 6 years ago. And we got a thank you note for turning her life around.
Yep, definitely changing the world for this young lady, right?
Yeah. So
Great.
we meet with these, we start the year out with the students that are recommended to come to our program. And there's usually like 40 to 60 students that are assigned to us, and we get adults to match up to 4 or 5 to a table and meet in the library.
Amazing, Floyd. Thank you so much for sharing that. I want to make sure we get through everybody. So let's go to room 8. This is Al, Amanda, Christy, and Earl.
So I'm Amanda. I was elected to speak, even though we had a lot of amazing projects to talk about. So the one I want to share about is our Kids and Cop shopping event. So we team up with the local law enforcement and our schools, and the school will identify children in need. And then the cops take those kids shopping, and they get to spend around $50 and buy gifts for their family, their friends, themselves, because they don't always have gifts under the tree. And then the cop will then give them a stocking full of gifts. So some of it's fun, but a lot of it's toothbrushes and soaps and things like that. And the gifts they buy will blow you away. Sometimes it's a pillow because they don't have a pillow, or their mom doesn't have a blanket, or socks. It's not toys. And then the Rotary Club's aspect of it is those kids are then the cop brings the kids to a community center area, and the Rotarians help them wrap all the gifts, put tags on them, talk about who they're for, and then we supply a meal. In the past, we've ate there. With COVID, we essentially just said, well, the most COVID-friendly thing we could do is to hand them a whole pizza to take home, as opposed to a slice of pizza that they eat here. So every kid got to take home a whole pizza for their entire family, a bag of fruit with oranges and apples, and then our local cookie shop cookies, etc. We got little bags of cookies for them. And
Fantastic.
it's just amazing. We would get spontaneous hugs, comments like, this is the best Christmas ever. I mean,
And
just
what
the
a
joy of it.
What a wonderful way to help kids understand the positive attributes of our police departments too.
Yep,
Great
absolutely.
sharing. Thank you, Amanda. How about room 9? That's Carol, Henry, Matt, Todd, Tom. Anybody want to share from group 9?
Hey, I'm Henry, and I'm in Group 9. We had a lot of great ideas about education and impacting the world through education, but they ended up selecting me. In my club in Rotary west of Sioux Falls, we have made a connection with Hope Haven Ministries, and it's gotten contagious and has gone throughout the state and possibly throughout the world. And we work with Hope Haven to refurbish wheelchairs and walking equipment for people who need that. So some of the inmates here in Sioux Falls work on that, Rotarians work on that. And then our club has connected with other Rotary clubs throughout the world in Romania. And a Rotary club out in Rapid City is now going to be working with a club in Ukraine where we're distributing these wheelchairs at different spots. And the program started with one of our Vietnam vets who got involved with the ministry by working a trip going back to Vietnam. And every year, except for last year, due to COVID, we've had a big Rock and Roll for Hope fundraiser where a band, which is a group of physicians, comes in and they play and we sell tickets. And that's part of the foundation, financial foundation, plus the volunteer foundation I talked about earlier, working together on distributing these chairs. And now we're trying to get a program and a process going to where we're going to be distributing chairs on the Pine Ridge and some of the Native American nations here in South Dakota.
That sounds great, Henry. Thank you so much for sharing. That sounds like it has huge impact. And our last group for 1 minute, room 10, Jamie, Mariah, Mark, or Tim.
This is Tim Dietz. I'll just go ahead and speak for our group. So we talked about 3 things that people have already talked about: the Strive program, which if your club doesn't do Strive, it's an amazing program. I've coordinated ours for 5 years, and it really is life-changing for these students. But like Floyd said, the payback isn't immediate. Sometimes it is 5 or 6 years later. You'll run into one of your students in a grocery store or somewhere in town, and they just tell you how that experience changed their life, and that is your payback. The second thing is we all, I seem like we talked a little bit about bed building. Like we all build beds for families that maybe their children or the parents don't have beds. But one of the other things we talked about was that a great volunteer opportunity is our annual fundraisers. I mean, we all do our fundraisers in one way, shape, or form or another, and it is a great way to bring the club together. And this year we did ours virtually, and it was even more of a shared experience than our typical one where we were all dressed up in tuxedos and in a ballroom. It was really an amazing experience. So
thank you, Tim. That sounds great. And I know the bed building is one that a lot of clubs do. So thank you for voting for a project to share. Everything that you've shared has just been utterly inspiring. I want to give you some real quick best practices, and I will make this PowerPoint available because I know we only have 5 minutes left. 4. One is keep your volunteers engaged. Let them know they're making a difference in the club. Big part of this is listening to your volunteers. Don't waste their time. Everybody's busy. Everybody's juggling a lot of things in their life. So make sure that they have a sense of purpose. They know what they're doing. Be flexible. Everybody needs flexibility, the people you're serving and the volunteers you work with. Be sure to train your volunteers. No matter what they're doing, make sure they have a good understanding of what's being expected. Don't forget to show some love. Everybody likes being appreciated. So something as simple as a handwritten note, recognition at your club meetings will definitely make your volunteers feel good about what they're doing. And lastly, don't overlook volunteers' motives. The decision to volunteer is emotional, and volunteers are motivated by lots of different things. So finding a way to match your volunteers' talents and interests with roles that fit their motives, you're set to build meaningful relationships, and your volunteers will stick around for a long, long time. I didn't want to leave today without bringing up Rotary Action Groups. If you're not familiar with action groups, jump on the RI website and you can find out more about them. But Rotary Action Groups will connect your volunteers to other people with the same passion around the world. There are volunteer action groups for Club Foot, environmental, family safety, a lot of health, education. So check those out. And I'm going to leave you today with a thought. You all have been inspiring, sharing the work that you do as a volunteer. It's so important in Rotary to wake up every day and believe that there's good in the world. But more importantly is be the reason someone believes in the goodness of people. Be the Rotarian who inspires everyone to believe that the world is a good place. And that is the end of my presentation. Someone did ask, we have 1 minute left here. Are there short-term projects, volunteer projects you can do during club time? Absolutely. We do things like my club, like we put stickers in the dictionaries that we donate. One year we made polar fleece blankets, we tied knots, we worked with school projects. So certainly there are things you can do short-term. And that's a great way to get volunteers who are involved who may not have jumped on the volunteer bandwagon just yet. So, okay, thanks everybody so much. I'll read through the chat box if anybody has said anything that they need a response to. And I did put my email in there, and I think the email is available somewhere else too. But thank you all so much. Have a really wonderful rest of your session today. And good luck with your presidencies.